half listening as I mentioned something about my day. I wasn't expecting fireworks, but I wasn't expecting the bomb either. After we cleared the table, I followed her upstairs. She went to the bathroom, shut the door without a word. I sat on the edge of the bed, waiting, and for the first time in months, I thought, maybe tonight would be different. When she came out, she barely looked at me, just pulled the sheets back, climbed in, and reached for the remote. That's when I said it. Simple, honest, almost soft. I miss you. She didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared at the TV screen like I'd spoken in another language. I was hoping we could be close tonight, I said. She turned to me then, finally, but not with affection. Her face was flat, unreadable. Her voice was sharper than it needed to be. No, thanks, she said. I already did it today at work. I didn't answer. I didn't even react. I just froze in place, blood drained, thoughts static, skin buzzing like a fuse had just been lit under my ribcage. She didn't clarify. She didn't laugh or say she was joking. She just turned back to the screen and raised the volume. And in that moment, something in me stopped. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It wasn't sadness either. It was something quieter, colder, like the switch you don't even know you flipped until the lights go out. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't ask how long. I didn't storm out or demand answers. I lay down on top of the covers, fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling until she fell asleep beside me. And the whole time, my mind wasn't racing, it was organizing, replaying every late night, every I'm tired, every business trip that went a day longer than planned, every time she turned away from me in bed like I was just part of the furniture. It all lined up like puzzle pieces I had been too loyal to put together. Until now. That one sentence rewrote every chapter of our marriage. Not because of what she said, but because of how easily she said it. Like my absence had become her habit, and my presence, just an inconvenience. That night, I didn't cry. I planned. And when I woke up, I wasn't the same man. Because when someone tells you they gave your place to someone else, you don't fight for the spot. You walk off the map entirely. The next morning, I watched her from across the kitchen. She hummed some pop song under her breath, hair still damp from the shower. She poured coffee into 2 mugs, out of habit, not intention, and left mine on the counter without a glance. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't looked me in the eye and admitted, without shame, that another man had touched her just hours before I asked for connection. She moved like someone completely unbothered. But I wasn't shocked anymore. I was focused. I skipped the mug, went straight to my office, closed the door, and powered on the laptop I hadn't used for anything personal in months. The same machine I once built dreams on. Financial planning, home design, anniversary trips we never took. I deleted those files. Then I opened a blank document. Started a new plan. Not a breakup letter. An extraction map. Clean. Quiet. Final. While she laughed at something on her phone in the other room, I was checking bank logins, opening private folders, transferring documents to encrypted drives. I didn't need confrontation, I needed precision. That afternoon, she texted me a photo of a smoothie and a gym mirror selfie. No words, just her image. A performance. She still believed she was untouchable. She thought I'd stay in orbit, like always. That she could drop a nuclear bomb, and I'd still be there fixing the roof. She didn't notice I'd already left the house emotionally. By Friday, I had memorized her schedule without asking. When she left for meetings, I stayed home and checked search histories on our shared tablet. When she took extra showers, I checked the water heater's digital log. When she came home with coffee but no receipt, I noticed. And through it all, I said nothing. Because silence makes people arrogant. They confuse it with surrender. She thought my stillness meant she'd won. But it was the opposite. I wasn't numb. I was gathering. She had turned intimacy into currency. Given it away freely where she felt admired. Withheld it where it was earned. And I had paid for it with years of loyalty, patience, and blind trust. Not anymore. That night, when she climbed into bed beside me, I didn't flinch. Didn't reach for her. Didn't even look. And when she turned off the light without saying goodnight, I stared at the ceiling like it wasn't ours anymore. Because it wasn't. That wasn't my home. She wasn't my wife. She was just the final chapter in a book I'd already decided to stop rereading. And I had just started outlining the sequel, one where she no longer appeared. By the 3rd day, she started to sense it. Not because I said anything. Because I didn't. I used to be predictable, always reaching out, always asking what was wrong, always trying to fix the cracks before they became breaks. But now I was quiet, not cold, detached, and she didn't know how to handle it. She walked a little closer when she passed me in the kitchen, sat next to me on the couch instead of across, sent me a photo from work with a smirk and a wink, like I was still buying into the show. But I wasn't watching anymore. I had unplugged from the performance. While she giggled on FaceTime with coworkers, I was canceling the joint Netflix subscription and opening my own account. She never noticed. While she posted selfies with vague captions like, "Grind never stops," I removed her access to our shared calendar and deleted our anniversary reminders. While she played the role of a woman too busy to be loyal, I became the man too focused to be fooled. Each step was small, quiet, surgical, but it was working. By midweek, she tried to provoke me. Wore that perfume she knew I liked. Came home late and smiled when I asked nothing. Left her phone face up on the table like it didn't hold the evidence of everything. She was testing me, looking for a crack, a reaction, anything that proved she still had me. But there was nothing left to pull. Because I wasn't trying to save what we had, I was studying how it died. And the more I saw, the clearer it became. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a lifestyle, built on control, on emotional leverage, on her always knowing I'd stay no matter how far she pushed. But I had finally stopped waiting for her to notice the damage. I had stepped out of the wreckage and started rebuilding elsewhere. That evening, I found our wedding photos on a shared drive. I moved them into a private folder, archived them. Then I wiped the rest: vacation pics, birthday dinners, her smiles that looked real but never reached her eyes. I wasn't deleting memories. I was removing attachments. And when she asked if I wanted to go out for dinner that weekend, like a normal couple, I simply said, "I've got plans." That was it. No excuse. No lie. Just truth. She stared at me, lips parting like she wanted to say something smart or cutting. But she didn't. Because for the first time, she was no longer in control of the room. I was. And that shift? It wasn't loud. It was silent. And permanent. Friday night. She came into the living room in one of those dresses she hadn't worn in over a year, the kind that used to turn heads and twist logic. She stood in the doorway, watching me with this crooked half-smile, like she was proud of herself for remembering how to be desirable. I looked up, nodded once, and went back to reading. It landed like a slap in a vacuum. She didn't understand why I wasn't biting. But the thing is, hunger fades when the meal's been poisoned. She floated around the house that evening like we were back in year one. Light touch on my arm. Laughter at nothing. Asking what I wanted for dinner when we both knew she hadn't cooked in weeks. It was a performance, and I let her have it, because it no longer affected me. While she put on her show, I finalized the lease on a temporary apartment across town. Furnished. Clean. Unconnected to our shared story. I paid 3 months in advance, no hesitation. The keys would be ready in 2 weeks. She kept circling me with this new softness, trying to draw me in. Touches on the shoulder. A hand lingering too long on my knee. Compliments that came a little too late. I smiled politely, said thanks, then turned the page. She wasn't used to being ignored. She was used to being chased. To being the one who withheld until I begged for proximity, until I proved myself worthy again. But not this time, because I had finally seen the pattern. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. She didn't want connection. She wanted control. And when I stopped reacting, she started reaching. But by then, I wasn't reachable. I was already gone. That night, while she slept beside me, closer than usual, I stared at the ceiling and visualized the new place. White walls, empty drawers, no shared memories clinging to furniture, no footsteps reminding me of betrayal, just space, real space, not the kind between two people in the same bed, but the kind you earn when you stop begging to be chosen. I imagine waking up there. No performance, no cold glances, no silent punishments. Just a new morning that didn't start with wondering where I stood in someone else's story. She shifted in her sleep, reaching for me. Her hand landed on my chest. But there was nothing beneath it. Not anymore. No warmth. No guilt. No hope. Just the faint echo of what used to be. And the man who used to need her? He had already made other arrangements. It was subtle at first. She started staying home more, finishing her work earlier. The late-night meetings vanished. The guarded phone calls became less frequent. But I knew better. This wasn't change. It was damage control. She could feel the distance now. Not just emotionally, but physically. I wasn't reaching anymore. Wasn't waiting. Wasn't watching. So she flipped her strategy. Saturday night, she came to bed early. No TV, no excuses, no scrolling. She slipped under the covers without saying a word, closer than usual, facing me like she used to back when touch meant something. I lay still, eyes closed. I could feel her watching me. Then the sheets shifted. Her hand traced my arm. Soft. Familiar. She leaned in, her breath slow, careful, rehearsed. I opened my eyes. She whispered, "I miss us." But I didn't answer, because I wasn't there to be missed anymore. I watched her try again, closer now. Her lips brushed my shoulder, then paused, waiting for a response. She wasn't offering love. She was offering distraction, hoping physical contact could erase emotional betrayal. It couldn't, and I wasn't going to pretend it could. So I sat up, swung my legs off the bed, and stood. She asked, "What's wrong?" That question was 27 months late. I looked at her, not as a husband, not as a lover, but as a man who'd just confirmed the last detail in a long report. She wasn't reaching for me because she remembered who I was. She was reaching because she saw me slipping away, and she couldn't control that. It wasn't love. It was survival. I left the room without a word, closed the door behind me with the same precision I'd used to close every emotional window she once ignored. In the kitchen, I sat in the dark. No lights, no distractions, just silence. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of it. Because that silence wasn't empty, it was mine. The next morning, I didn't bring it up. Neither did she. We went through the motions: breakfast, laundry, small talk. But the truth hung in the air like smoke from a fire she couldn't hide anymore. She had used her last card, and it didn't land. That night, I didn't sleep beside her. I stayed on the couch, not out of spite, but because the man she touched wasn't there anymore. He left the moment she said, "I already did it today at work." And this version? He wasn't interested in second chances dressed as manipulation. By Monday, her voice had changed. Not softer, just more calculated. She asked if I wanted to go to dinner that night, somewhere nice. A restaurant she used to roll her eyes at. Suddenly, it was her idea. She asked if I'd seen that new show she pretended not to care about before. Offered to watch it together, maybe even order food in. She was trying to reset the story, rewind the tape. But I'd already replaced the battery. I told her I had plans after work. Kept it short. No explanation. She tilted her head like she wanted to press. But she didn't. Because underneath all that effort was the real fear. She didn't know who I was anymore. And that scared her. It should have. That morning, before I left the house, I logged into our shared financial account and removed her access. Quietly. Legally. Without drama. She hadn't contributed to it in over a year, yet it still held my name, my effort, my future. She hadn't earned the right to touch it anymore. By lunch, I had opened a private account under my name only. New email. New phone number linked. New password protocols. I rerouted my paycheck there immediately. No alerts. No flags. Just silent movement. She texted me midday with a heart emoji. I didn't reply, because I wasn't looking for affection anymore. I was organizing my exit. That evening, she noticed something. She called from the living room, asking if I'd changed a setting on our banking app. Her voice had that rehearsed confusion to it, like she was trying not to sound alarmed. I said I'd look into it, then returned to packing the small box in the guest room. Inside it, passport, birth certificate, key documents she never cared about before. Now, they were mine alone. No trace of us. No permission needed. That night, she was quiet. Too quiet. She sat across from me at dinner, picking at her food like she was working up to a question. She never asked, because deep down, she already knew the answer. I had become a stranger in the same house. Not out of anger, but by choice. And nothing unsettles a manipulator more than losing access to your emotions. She used to weaponize silence. Now it belonged to me, and I was using it better than she ever did. Because her silence came with expectation. Mine came with an expiration date. And she was running out of time. It happened on a Wednesday night. She stood in the hallway with her arms crossed, like she was preparing for battle but unsure if the enemy was still there. I had just come back from the gym. Showered. Quiet. Focused. I passed her on the way to the bedroom. That's when she asked it. Not gently. Not kindly. But with forced calm. "Is something going on with you?" I stopped. Looked at her. She didn't look angry. She looked nervous. Like someone who just realized the fire had burned down the house while they were playing with matches. I could have said a lot. I could have reminded her of that night. Those 9 words that detonated the last piece of connection between us. No. Thanks. I already did it today at work. I could have asked who he was, how long it had been going on, if she ever planned to admit it. But I didn't. I just said, I'm fine, then walked past her. No weight in my tone. No edge. Just the truth. Because I was fine. Not healed. Not happy. But finished. And there's a strange kind of freedom in being finished. She followed me into the room like she expected a fight. Wanted one, maybe. But there was nothing left to push against. No resistance. Just space she couldn't fill anymore. She started rambling, little things. Said she'd been stressed. That work had been draining. That maybe she hadn't been as present as she should have been. None of it mattered. Because none of it was about love. It was about control. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was scared of what my silence meant. Because the man who used to plead for attention now didn't care where she slept, who she texted, or what she wore. I wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. I was watching it fall exactly as it deserved to. That night, I slept in the guest room again. She didn't knock. Didn't check in. She was calculating. Measuring the distance I'd created and realizing, for the first time, it wasn't built on resentment. It was built on choice. A deliberate decision to detach. No arguments. No second chances. Just the slow, surgical process of removing her from the core of my life. And the scariest part for her? I wasn't punishing her. I was preparing to disappear in a way no apology could reach. And she couldn't stop what she didn't see coming. I didn't pack everything at once. That would have been too loud. Instead, I started removing myself the same way she removed her affection, quietly, one piece at a time, until there was nothing left to hold. Monday morning, I took a gym bag with me. Inside, 3 shirts, 2 pairs of shoes, and a copy of our marriage license. She thought I was going to work. I was going to freedom. Each day after that, I took a little more. My watch box, a drawer of essentials, even the framed photo from our wedding she'd stopped noticing 2 years ago. She didn't ask, but I knew she felt it. There's a tension that settles in the air when someone senses they've lost the script and the audience is no longer clapping. She started checking my phone more, pretending to clean the room, but subtly scanning every app, every notification. She didn't find anything, because there was nothing to find. No affair, no secret lover, no revenge fling. That would have meant I still cared enough to play the same game. But I had left that table weeks ago. She wanted to believe I was doing what she did, replacing her. But the truth was worse. I was erasing her. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because some people don't need to be punished. They need to be forgotten. And forgetting her started with reclaiming space. The new apartment was nearly ready. I'd furnished it simply. No clutter, no ghosts. It didn't have the warmth of a home yet. But it had something better. Silence I could trust. That night, I didn't come straight home. I drove to the new place. Sat on the floor with a beer and no lights on. Just the hum of distance growing between me and the woman who once swore forever, only to treat loyalty like a disposable favor. When I did walk back into the house, she was waiting. Eyes alert. Posture tense. She asked if I'd been at the gym. I said yes. That was true. I had been working out. Not my body. My exit. She nodded, pretending to believe it. But I saw the flicker in her gaze. The first crack in her certainty. She used to be so confident in my loyalty. Now she couldn't even trust my silence. And that shift? That was my win. Because once a manipulator starts doubting their control, the game's already over. They just haven't realized they've already lost. Thursday night, she cracked. I came home later than usual. Not late enough to justify panic, but just enough to make her feel it. She was waiting at the table, lights dimmed, candles lit. Like a scene from a memory that didn't belong to us anymore. She was dressed simply, no makeup, hair down. Vulnerable by design. I could smell the desperation. She asked me to sit. I did. She started talking, about us, about the silence, about how she felt like something was wrong. Her voice was shaking, but her words were rehearsed. She said she missed how we used to laugh. Said she felt like she had drifted. That word landed like a joke. Drifted? Like intimacy just slipped out of her hands one day and landed in someone else's lap at the office? She talked about wanting to reconnect. About starting fresh. She said, I just want to know where you are in all of this. And that's when I realized, she still didn't get it. She still believed we were on a path worth fixing. Still thought her words could reverse time. But this wasn't about communication. This wasn't about love. This was about distance, and I was already gone. So I looked at her, long enough for her to think I might actually say something profound. And I did, just not the kind she wanted. I've already made peace with losing you. That was it. No raised voice, no dramatic exit, no accusations, just truth, delivered like a signed document with no room for negotiation. Her face dropped, not because she didn't expect it, but because she had hoped I hadn't noticed how long she'd been gone, mentally, emotionally, physically. She tried to speak again, but there was no air in the room left for her. I stood, walked to the door, paused, and left without another word. Not because I didn't have more to say, but because I didn't need to say it. The most powerful statement I could make wasn't a monologue. It was my absence. And as I drove away, windows down, city lights flickering across the dash, I didn't feel anger or relief. I felt clarity. Because the hardest part of letting go isn't the decision. It's the silence afterward. The part where you don't check your phone. Don't second-guess yourself. Don't turn around. And that night, I didn't. I didn't answer her calls. Didn't reply to her texts. Didn't leave a forwarding address. By Friday morning, I was already in the new apartment, key in the lock, door closing behind me with a sound I'll never forget. Quiet, definite, irreversible. She tried to reach out through mutual friends. I didn't respond. She texted my sister. Called my job. I'd already taken personal leave. I had pre-recorded my out-of-office message. Short, clean, no room for guessing. The apartment was still bare. No framed photos, no dishes stacked in cabinets, no memories clinging to furniture. And that was the point. Because healing doesn't start with noise. It starts in silence. In absence. In choosing stillness after chaos. I spent the weekend alone. No distractions. Just hours passing like fresh air. I didn't miss her. I didn't want her to understand. Understanding was a luxury she'd never offered me. All she ever gave was confusion, deflection, denial. And now? Now she was living inside the same silence she used as a weapon. The one she used when she'd come home late, cold and quiet, brushing me off with a fake laugh or a shrug. The same silence she created when she rejected me with that sentence burned into my memory. No thanks. I already did it today at work. That silence. It was hers now. By Monday, she came by the old house. The place I used to call home. The locks had been changed. The garage emptied. My scent gone from the pillows. My clothes missing from the closet. No trace. Except for one thing. A white envelope taped to the fridge. Her name on the front. Inside, 6 words. Written in clean, steady print. This was your last rehearsal. Goodbye. That was all. No signature. No return address. Because I wasn't interested in being remembered. I wasn't interested in proving a point. I was interested in ending the pattern. And walking away without screaming, without revenge, without closure. That was the ending she never saw coming. No monologue. No confrontation. Just distance. Unbreakable. Unnegotiable. And while she scrolled through old photos, stared at a disconnected number, and tried to figure out when exactly